This is the Midnight Radio Show.
Hello and welcome to Movie Monday of the Midnight Radio Show.
Oh, what's up, Movie Monday?
What's up, Movie Monday indeed. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing a little, doing good.
Good, a little good.
He's doing a little good.
A little bit good. How about you, Drew?
I'm doing great.
Great. This is Pete here.
This is John.
That's John.
This is Drew.
John's a little good. Drew is just great. This week we decided to review World War Z. We all went and saw it. World War Z is the new release from Plan B Entertainment and Apparatus Productions. It's directed by Mark Forrester. What's that?
Oh, I was going to say more than one studio. There were 4 studios involved.
4, yeah. Those were the 2 most major, from what I could tell. The film,
Sorry I interrupted.
No problem. It's directed by Mark Foster. It's the film stars Brad Pitt as a former UN employee, Jerry Lane, who suddenly is thrust back into the world of international affairs when the world is caught unawares by a zombie pandemic. The story follows Jerry as he travels the world in a race against time to find a solution to the zombie outbreak, which looks to put an end to humanity absolutely. Now, before we actually get into this review, I'd like to point out that this is a review of the film solely. This film, if you didn't know, is based on a novel by Max Brooks, which kind of details a world study of what would happen, in our contemporary the societies throughout the world, how each country would fare.
Well, what did happen? Actually,
Right.
Not what would happen, what did happen. And I guess we said
Well,
we do
hypothetically,
we do the review, but at the end of the day, the movie World War Z is just a name.
Right, exactly. I mean, keeping like the singularity to the film is kind of what we do here on Movie Mondays. But that being said, I feel I'd be doing like a disservice to those of you who actually enjoyed the book and are going to see this movie for the first time. This is not a movie about the book by any means. As you said, it's title alone.
I believe the text I got from John was, I feel like I watched the crucifixion of my favorite book. So
Exactly.
If you want to go for the book, don't go for the book.
I mean, I went into it with that mindset, absolutely. I mean, even from the trailers, I knew this was not going to be it. I mean, when I heard they were making it a film, I was like, how are you going to take that book, which is based on interviews and vignettes of characters throughout the world, how they handled it, their individual experiences. It's like, how are you going to do that with, a one-character movie?
I mean, there wasn't. I know we keep saying we're not going to review, but there wasn't. I mean, I think there were very, very, very at best minor throwbacks to the book.
Yeah,
very minor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, virtually none of the content that comprises the actual film World War Z is conducive to like what you read in the novel
At all.
You're not going to see like the Battle of Yonkers. Even the zombies haven't changed.
That too, because you guys were talking
Yeah,
And that was one of the things we expected. We kept saying, in the trailer, we kept saying, "Oh, that must be the Battle of Yonkers."
right, but it was
Brad
in
Pitt says-
Jerusalem, which was weird. And,
No, I'm talking about the initial outbreak.
Oh, okay.
We continuously thought that that's going to be the Battle of Yonkers. This is gonna be
Right.
him escaping the city for the first half of the movie, but unfortunately that was not the case.
Yeah, they've even changed like kind of what comprises zombies. Like all of a sudden now they're superhuman creatures that can jump great distances, tackle people. They're not the shambling zombies that were constantly described in the novel.
Well, there was recently not recently. I think some time ago there was an interview. Brad Pitt, who was saying, when they had
He was an executive producer on the
He
film
was
as well.
produced it, too.
when they were studying the book and they were trying to, I guess, find ways to make it similar to the book at all. He said, we're studying insects and ants and
I did hear something about
specific types of species to see what the zombie is like. He says, we wanted to make it a little bit more exciting than what the book had to offer.
Okay.
As far as zombies went, and
I mean, they really definitely committed to that.
well,
if you see the film.
The sad thing is, I heard this after the film.
Mm-hmm.
From trailers, World War Z. World War Z is definitely going to be a tough movie to talk about. Well, it's not going to be tough, but there's going to be a lot of just bleh coming from it overall.
I mean, I could list literally for hours the difference between like
The book.
baffling changes they opted to make from the book and then comparing to the film. But it's best to know that if you're going to see the film, World War Z is a single hero, basically action movie featuring zombie-like creatures.
You know what the one thing I don't get is did you see the trailers before the movie released?
Yes.
You remember the scene when they're in Jerusalem and he goes, "Oh, Russia's a black hole" in the trailer. in the movie, and smidge spoiler, he goes, well, India is a black hole. I never got why they did that at all. It's like, why did they replace one part of the movie with something complete? Like, why did they take? It could have been Russia easily rather than India.
I don't know. I mean, I guess they did it to have that kind of callback to that's where Israel had traced the zombie in the codex or whatever it was, that message they intercepted.
The Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, it's really apparent, and it's kind of frustrating that the title is just a blatant grab at getting asses in the seats to people who, enjoyed the book.
I know in this first segment we like to just discuss the movie overall, but it's so hard not to discuss how it's just like a... I mean, you're going to hear something from us in a couple of minutes, but if you're expecting the book, prepare to be disappointed.
It's certainly not the book, and you got to go in with that mindset. I mean, it's World War Z in title alone, absolutely, as you said earlier. I mean, it should have been called, like, Traveling with Zombie-like Monsters. So to actually get into more objectively what the film is about, it follows Brad Pitt, as I was saying earlier, and it's him basically traveling throughout the world, seeing how the outbreak is affected. When he was a UN sort of investigator or something like that. They don't make it really clear.
A bunch of
He was
like third world country, war-torn areas. He was like doing genocide investigations, stuff like that for the UN.
But some hardcore shit. Like he was going in some
they
bad
allude to it.
areas.
It's like shit you might not get out of if you're an investigator.
Right. So they need his skills, and he kind of gets thrust into researching all this stuff. The movie overall, I would say the action sequences are interesting to watch if you're into that sort of thing. The film overall really reminded me of I Am Legend a lot. I felt the creatures were really similar. It almost ended in the same way. No spoiler here, but it has that very similar conclusion.
It reminded me of Passion of the Christ. No.
That was Superman.
I mean, overall, I agree that the film kind of... It harkens back to this kind of I Am Legend, but with a positive ending instead of the negative.
Right. Well, even I Am Legend, you could argue that was positive because it all kind of worked out in the end, and also it's you get like a sense of martyrism. What people have to go through in this like great tragedy that theoretically is wiping out the human race, and one person who's like smart enough and savvy enough and has the experience to stand up to it. Doesn't come across like a zombie movie though by any means. It's not going to scratch that zombie itch. Fine.
It's more of a world traveler. We're going to find the source.
Right.
movie.
It was kind of like I Am Legend meets what was the like Outbreak.
Right.
Thing, sort of,
exactly. It felt like there
wasn't enough gore or any of that stuff.
Yeah. When you saw like PG-13 zombie movie, it's like
first
what?
red flag about this movie. I was like,
absolutely.
Well, that's the roughest part. I mean, how do you listen? I understand that World War Z is a very popular name, but let's roll the dice here. If they made it a rated R movie, I think it would have done a ton better.
It would have been nice to have. I mean, and you do get little moments. Like I would say what's done well in this movie is like the greater scale panic scenes when you first see the outbreak. The scene where they're going up the stairs.
It had me the first.
And once again, this would harken back to I Am Legend. I enjoyed the first few scenes of that movie, and then I just started to get tired of the concept and right, and it was very similar to I Am Legend in a way that it's like he keeps discovering more and more about these creatures, like how they operate, figuring out what's going on. Yeah. So if you're into a movie where it's discovering more about the opposition, it is almost like finding out about an epidemic movie more than like an action sequence movie, but it does have a lot of tense scenes.
It does.
It was a little heavy on the CGI for my taste. At parts it got a little clunky to me.
Absolutely.
They were throwing too much.
You know what the hardest thing was about watching the movie, and Drew and I have discussed this now a little bit, is the fact that we were in theaters where we had. You a little bit where it's like where you had people laughing at scenes, but at the end of the movie they're clapping for it, and you say, what the hell is going on? Why are they laughing during specific parts? And then why are they going to clap at the end of the movie if they think that
it's not that
this
good.
this
Not
movie
worth it.
that's apparently so serious to this? Listen, not to say anything about an audience, but some people look into films deeper than others,
Correct.
and some don't.
Absolutely true.
So, when I was in the theater with all these people who were like, oh, Lord, look, it's a zombie.
Right.
And people were like, ha, 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 ha. It's hard for you it's hard for you as a viewer to partially take the movie serious. It's hard for the rest of the audience, and it's hard for you to believe the outcome when the movie finally ends and the credits start rolling. And they
Right.
start clapping.
And if people are pissing you off while you're watching it, you're less likely to enjoy the movie. Like if
Right.
you're
Yeah.
already
And
on
once-
that plane where you don't like it, it's
Right.
That-
And once again, not to bring my jaded perception, having read the book and really enjoyed
Oh,
it.
I'm on the
into
same
it.
page as you. So,
But it begins like a zombie movie. We get the initial panic. We
great.
get that great scene in the stairwell, and then it becomes Brad Pitt's character Jerry literally traveling the world. So I would recommend this movie if you like kind of fantastical action, big scenes. Like if you want like kind of, like for instance, if like you really enjoyed the.
National Treasure.
Or yeah, exactly. But kind of blended with like the Two Towers scene, you know,
Yeah.
from, you know, the Battle of Helm's Deep, something like that, like kind of grandiose. Probably a movie you enjoy. If you're looking for like an action movie though, that's really like a side-splitting zombie movie,
Like a-
not so much. It tries to go for a somber, sober ending.
It has, you know, and I hate to say this, it has very predictable pacing where it's, okay, we're somewhere, something happens.
X, Y, or Z is going to happen.
Well, no, it's X, Y, then Z.
Right.
It's, okay, we're in Jerusalem. It's safe. It's quiet.
I-
I think too was
we
like,
figured out.
I'm never a guy who's like, oh, that would never happen when you watch
Right.
movies, and I found myself a lot during this movie being like, oh, come on, dude, really?
Yeah, I mean, if you are a zombie fan, I would recommend it if you just want to see a different take on it. Overall, I mean, you get little instances. I think it's always cool in zombie stories, the origin of it, kind of the rules to it, and they do define that. I would say see it if you like kind of, as I said earlier, grandiose sort of styles of action.
I think you know, and my thought is, if it was something different, if it was called something like World Zombie Chronicles or
Right.
World Zombie this or
Or like the plague.
The
you know, something
Plague,
vague.
I think it would
Yeah.
have been a little bit better because I think that the movie was a little different, and I think that was a little fresh for me at least. And,
Yes.
you know, to see a narrative, like a stronger narrative behind a zombie
Yeah.
movie, while it's not that great, it was great to see a narrative behind
Yes,
it.
and that's definitely what I would recommend. I mean, I would recommend seeing it just for the fact that it's unlike any other movie you'd see. Not so much in the way that it's going to dazzle you, but
It has a
I would
beginning,
say-
middle, and end.
wait till it comes out on Netflix. That
Yeah.
would be my overall tonality, but worth seeing. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to get into some spoilers and really kind of delve deeper into our feelings about this. We'll be right back. This is Movie Monday. Hi there. This is Pete Mutino, Director of Podcasts here at the Midnight Radio Show. I'm here to thank you for continuing to listen to our podcasts, including our Movie Monday reviews, our Freeform Wednesday shows, and our soon-to-come sports retrospective podcast on Saturdays with columnist Nick Schaefer. It's my hope that you've enjoyed what you've heard so far, but I would like to hear from you. Please send an email to pete@themidnightradioshow.com. Let me know your thoughts, what you'd like changed, or even suggestions for a new podcast with subject matter you would like to hear. We can't make it a great podcast for you if we don't know what you want. So once again, thanks for listening, and I hope to hear from you. One last time, send your comments to pete@themidnightradioshow.com. And please, no spam emails. That's what my frickin' Gmail account is for. Welcome back to Movie Monday. We're reviewing World War Z this week. So we were kind of talking about the overall general tone of the film, what it is. Overall, I as we said, it's worth seeing, but I was disappointed by the film.
What a piece of shit.
No, I went with my buddy Paul, and he looked at me in the middle of it, and he just goes, "This is fucking terrible, dude. I just want to leave." You know, it's
like
just-
like
didn't
I mentioned in the last segment, if it was named something different, I think it would have done. You know what the thing is? The thing about today is brand name is king.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, how do you sell a new zombie movie without something popular?
Well,
behind
95%
it?
of the movies you see are a remake of something or a TV show. Or,
Yeah.
I saw they're remaking Men in Black already.
You know,
Yeah, it's called Rest in Peace Department.
Oh no, that's based on a comic book actually.
Yeah, it's basically Men in Black. It's like the unseen world, and it's like the grizzled vet training the like rookie.
Yeah.
Listen,
It is kind of the same storyline.
I don't want to. Well, listen, I don't want to say that it's the same storyline, but you know, you have these discrepancies in movies and whatnot. But like I was saying, if it was named something partially different, if it was named something a little bit different, I think I would have viewed it a little bit higher in my eyes. But the fact that it's named World War Z, a book you and I have consistently talked about on a
Great book.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't read World War Z, read it.
See, I didn't read World War Z, and I still feel the same shitty way that you feel about the movie. So it's like I don't know if that even has anything to do with it.
I mean,
I was expecting a good zombie gory.
But you think Man?
I mean, before we go on the tirade about like what was aggravating the movie, let me just talk about what I did like about the film. Don't worry, this won't take long. I mean, I like the little parts where I was saying earlier, like how they kind of talk about the rules of zombies. I liked the part where they're escaping to the rooftop and a little bit of blood gets in his mouth. And because he had that moment earlier where he counted, he runs to the edge of the building and immediately starts counting. I like moments like that. I liked the playoff between the military having to get people off the ship. I like the tension building with the family, but then it kind of dismisses the whole thing, so that was a little aggravating.
I think the whole original panic scene was great.
Yeah,
I mean, and
the policeman getting hit by the truck bowling through, I thought that was great. And then, but you knew something was dire wrong the instant you saw the first zombie. Them like bashing their heads through the windshield, them jumping huge distances, not breaking limbs. It's like they became superhuman.
They were jumping like Superman in Man of Steel.
Yeah, just tackling people. Like one zombie was too much for one person to handle. I liked the relationship between him and I forgot the character's name, the Israeli girl who he chops her hand off.
I forgot.
Like a Segin or something.
Yeah.
That
was. I mean, I think a lot of that was great. And before we get too deep in, like I said, the initial panic was great. It's just kind of like, you're
them raiding the shop was cool.
Yeah, you're hearing about it.
How come like all kids in like invasion movies have asma? Did you realize that?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
It's like another like a little sign throw
Yeah.
back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like you hear about the invasion or the infection spreading. The infection finally got to them.
Yeah.
And I think it was great the way they escaped. I think that initial panic scene was really great because you rarely see that in zombie movies. Like Dawn of the Dead, you see the scene where she's driving through the torn neighborhood with the truck driving into the gas station.
Yeah,
but that's it.
always cool.
And then she gets into a car crash and she meets Ving Rhames. He's like, motherfucker, you ready?
Yeah. Well, Dawn of the Dead, it has those running zombies, but like even then, like there's something very zombie-like about the zombies in that movie. You
Well,
know
they
what I
look
mean?
like zombies.
They look like zombies. They act like zombies. Like in this one, like the zombies were making weird, high-pitched, like crazy velociraptor noises. Like it was just bizarre.
It really were like the I Am Legend.
Yeah,
creatures,
I felt like I was watching I Am Legend, except with better because I Am Legend is obviously it's more just Will Smith by himself with his dog. So it's kind of like post-apocalyptic Man Against the World. So this one still kind of served true to the books to an extent where it's showing, a worldwide panic.
Holdouts and
And that being said, I think the human interaction scenes in this were pretty strong. I mean, I liked a lot of them. I liked the scene where he's at that CDC type place toward the end.
the WHO.
Yeah, the WHO, where he knows which guy's in charge. He's kind of like playing badass to them.
Because he's been through the shit before. I mean, he's probably been in that situation at one point.
Right.
But I mean, let's look at the movie from a linear perspective. When he gets onto the ship and they threaten him, it's like, we need people to do shit. And it's just like we can't have non-essential personnel. Like you said, that was a really nice touch. But at the end of the day, eventually when he's on the plane crash and they're like, "Oh, we've waited 2 days." It's just like, do you know what's going on in the world? I felt like that was kind of a little like it was really
that came out of nowhere.
It was squashed really quick because it was like, "Oh, we're gonna have to move you because we think he's dead."
Sorry.
It's been 2 days.
That was a little ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a
over the top.
little ridiculous.
I like the interaction between him and the pilots, though, kind of like realizing what was going on, that he was important, that he had a plan, and then it kind of spiraled out of control on the plane. I thought the plane was actually probably the strongest action sequence because it felt almost like a zombie movie.
I think that
and the rooftop escape scene.
the rooftop escape scene was really good.
And I felt the plane, even though it was like over the top, it felt like a zombie movie, and it did kind of harken back to the book a little bit in the sense that it was planes like were like the biggest,
Infector, like
and
they
airports were like a huge issue.
Traveled everything.
My issue with the plane though is that everyone that was on that plane was supposed to be okay. Because nothing had happened in Jerusalem yet.
What had happened? Well, what had happened was when they were on the runway, a zombie had snuck
onto the bathroom.
No, it wasn't the bathroom.
What was
that was an elevator into the cargo bay. He had snuck into the cargo bay.
Oh, that knocks out a lot of my anger towards that scene. Though.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
No, what had happened was it's like how the zombies were grabbing onto a lot of stuff, cars and all that jazz. I'm assuming that one of the zombies from when the Jerusalem invasion scene was happening, that a zombie had probably grabbed onto the wheel.
And it all seems so clear though, like no one had really gotten on. Like until they were leaving, it didn't look like there were any zombies.
No, and that's
really.
the thing. What had happened was, oh fuck.
All right.
Oh,
Very
fuck.
professional of you, Johnny.
That's our fearless leader, Jason Short.
Thanks, Jason.
No, a zombie had snuck into the plane.
Right.
So that was an elevator between the cargo bay,
The cargo.
where
that makes
where
a
waitresses,
little bit more sense.
where the stewardess
Waitress.
gets like all stewardess
One of them
waitress.
fancy sky waitresses.
They get their food and the drinks, and they store all the stuff
Yeah.
for the passengers. That's where he'd stowed on.
Still, I felt like that was the best scene. It had the nice tension where people start working together. They sectioned off that one part of the plane, and then like Nerdy McGee
Oh,
knocks
that's
over the
shit.
suitcase.
Until a grenade blows out the window.
Right.
pissed me off, too.
I mean, overall, I think the movie was very predictable. I think it was panic, get through the panic, panic, get through the panic, panic, get through the panic.
What did you think of that initial killing of that scientist that was supposed to save everybody? Just they just killed him immediately.
That was really
Well,
good.
see, I thought that was clunky though because that
Yeah.
was a character in the book,
Yeah.
and it was weird that they introduced him. And it's like, okay, so maybe we're going to kind of bring all the characters that we meet throughout the book. Maybe we bring it to a head. Maybe we introduce, like, say, the blind Japanese man.
You were so
And
excited
he's like, well,
about that.
I really enjoyed that chapter. I thought that was really cool. But no, they introduced the actual character, and he has like kind of his profound speech, and then he like slips in some rain and shoots himself in the face.
Did he die in the book?
No, it would because the book is much more. Basically, any character you meet in the book is alive.
Alive.
So
why wouldn't they kill him
They're
with a
recounting
zombie?
after they basically figured out
What
the
happened
nature.
died so stupidly.
Imagine
In a
World War
zombie movie.
Yeah.
Imagine World War II happened, and then you're recounting World War II through
Okay.
interviews, trying to see where it initially started, how each place dealt with it, and blah, blah, blah. World War Z is the account of the World War against zombies after it's been quelled.
Yeah,
and
for the most part,
squashed.
it's done. Now
Yeah.
it's like they're just cleaning out what remains. But
Right.
there are
Rebuilding.
There are a lot of changes that were baffling. I mean, I really hate harking
Well,
back
like
to the
half
book
the
so
movie.
much. It's just such a good book. But like, there were little moments in the book that I felt they could have brought back. Like, for instance, like explosives were very ineffective because it would like blow their heads off, but the heads would still be like biting at you.
Right.
So that's why they stopped using explosives. They'd use like more fire, more just like weapons that wouldn't overheat that they could unload a lot of rounds in. They'd build a lot of barricades, and you didn't see too much of that. Also, there was a whole issue with they kind of at the beginning. I thought they were kind of touching on it. I think it was a little nod to the book with all the beached up whales and dolphins and stuff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of zombies would wander into the water, but you know they're undead, so they have to be down there. So people would be like swimming in shallow water, and you know you just get kind of dragged under.
Oh shit.
But once again, it's a very indifferent interpretation. The fact that the turnover happened so quickly was kind of almost funny to me when I first saw it, because the guy, you just see him kind of getting overrode in his car when they're still in Philly. He gets you don't even see him get bit, and then he just kind of gets out of the car, like screams up in the air and becomes a zombie.
Yeah.
So that was a little clunky to me. I mean, once again, I think the human interactions stayed true enough that it's interesting that you meet a bunch of people. As I said, this should have been called like World Travel with Zombies because you got to see.
National Zombie Graphic.
Yeah, exactly.
I initially loved the Spanish family they encountered and how they acquired the small little boy to go along with
They're
them.
like, we're going to stay here.
Well, yeah,
But then
well,
at the end, it was like,
he
what was
didn't-
the point of him?
He
even
didn't
being
contribute.
there?
See, that's the
Nothing.
thing. And same with like introducing the Doctor. It's like they would introduce characters for no real
then
reason.
kill
And then just
them
kill,
off.
kill them or just have them not do anything.
Yeah, so at a certain point, it's like, do you zig or zag? Like, do you just make it? The I Am Legend story is like, is it Brad Pitt alone in the world, like traveling the world and just losing people?
Mm-hmm.
The only character, and the characters at the end, I was waiting for them to be killed off needlessly.
But none of them got killed.
Yeah, I was waiting for Israeli girl to die. I actually didn't think she was going to die, but I thought the two guys at
The scientists.
yeah, the two scientists were going to get killed off.
I
thought that scene was pretty tense, but then anticlimactic to finish the whole movie.
Well, you know what the hard thing was to watch when everyone's laughing during the movie.
Yeah, that-
Like
that
I
was
said-
when people were
At the
laughing
very end, you mean
during
with
that
the
scene.
scientist zombie clicking its teeth?
Well,
Yes.
it's not
That's
even
what everyone was laughing
It's
at.
even when they had to sneak by and the zombie was like,
Oh, that was kind of like a slapstick.
and they had to,
Yes.
crawl past. And it was just like everyone's laughing. And like I said earlier, we had the say what you see people in my theater. So like, oh Lord, look at that zombie clicking, and you're like, come on. And then they clap at the end of the movie, and you're like, less than 5 minutes ago, you were laughing hysterically at the movie. It's like either I don't want to say either take it serious or
Get the fuck out.
get the fuck out, but it's like either embrace it for what it is or just shut the fuck up because you are in company in a movie theater.
I don't want to go into the final climactic scene either and be in my head be like, okay, well, this is what's going to happen, and be like most
Yeah.
of the way right. You know what I mean?
I
Like, I want to
agree.
be surprised a little bit. Of what's going on.
Definitely. And I think one thing that would have behooved them that really operated a lot in the original story is all the stories are about the initial panic and outbreak and then how they deal with it after they've kind of come up with the solutions. And that's what's interesting. It's how they overcome it and how it starts. Those are the two interesting facets of zombie lore. Not so much the fact that we have a bunch of scenes where we see swarms of zombies killing people,
But that's the thing.
which they seem to think was important.
The whole cleanup at the end of the movie wasn't interesting because it's like, oh, we have camouflage to fight the zombies.
It's
Well,
like, well, how about we see you fight the zombies then? You know what I mean? We just see like a montage.
well, that's what we're going to see in World War Z 2.
I
Listen,
hope not.
there's no doubt about this that World War Z made a lot of money. A lot of movies.
I think
like,
it's up to 80. It was 85 million the first
but what
weekend.
was the budget?
That I don't have written down right now.
I will look it up real quick.
Okay.
But anywho, it's just like a lot of these movies. I mean, like, did you ever see the Silent Hill movie in theaters?
I didn't. Do I have to see it in theaters or just see it in general?
No. You wouldn't have to see it in theaters. But what I'm saying is, I saw Silent Hill in movie theaters, and that was probably a $45 million movie. And, those movies make tenfold back.
Right.
Because they're like horror-ish.
But they're not very high budget though. Those films.
Right.
Oh my God! Listen, World War Z has been out less. Well, it's been out a week now. The budget was 190 million. It's already made 140 million back.
Wow.
And you have to figure the numbers in there.
Inflated a little bit.
Well, not inflated. Overseas and distribution.
Right.
And then you have to figure in DVDs and Blu-rays and rentals and.
Yeah, but who does that anymore?
Give it the times.
Go with the times.
The zombies are gonna get you unless
But
you wise up.
this movie will This movie will probably make $500 million in its run overall. Because, like I said earlier, not to insult our user base per se, but it's like a lot of people go to see the movies and they don't look deeply into the movies enough, like you and I.
Right.
I would say half the people in my theater probably didn't know it was based off a book.
Probably not.
Oh, more than that.
Or they knew it was based off a book and didn't even know what the
Didn't
book was
read it,
about.
yeah.
Like, who knows?
More than 3/4 of the theater that I was in were applauding at the end of the movie. It was
Which
just
is so
like,
weird to
dude.
me, because to me the movie was incredibly anticlimactic and
Yeah.
weird. It's just him with
He
one
was like
zombie.
Jesus.
Right, exactly, and he injects himself. But then the one thing that they never addressed, which was so aggravating to me, unless I totally missed something, is the camouflage works. He gets past the horde of zombies. That's kind of cool. And then it's just him going home to his family. And it's like he just injected himself with a terminal illness.
Oh.
Why don't we see his demise and like maybe they build like a fucking statue to him or something?
Oh,
or why don't they have something like why aren't they injecting the troops? So is everyone terminally ill now? They don't address that.
They show that they actually do address it.
How?
There's one scene where it's panning and it's that chick giving
The
him
Israeli chick?
No, not the Israeli chick.
The
It's
chick at the
the chick
World
at the
Health.
World Health Organization
Yeah.
giving him the antidote
Oh, for what he just injected
for what he
himself
had
in.
just injected himself
I
with.
thought the whole thing was like there weren't any anecdotes because remember when they inject himself and there's that whole line it's like how long does he have and it's like
Oh no! That was the thing. They were wondering what he was going to inject himself with. They were saying, the shit on the left shelf. If he injected himself with, he was going to die. The stuff on the right shelf was a
That
little,
pissed me off,
That
too.
was more curable. That's like today. Like if he injected himself with syphilis, it's manageable. You have antibiotics and this and that, and he probably injected himself with something.
right.
He was like
And
writing
then
notes and stuff though too, and it's like, why don't you be like, should I use this? Call if I should do, because you could still hear
you
if
could
they were
hear
calling.
I was
like,
thinking that too. It's
why
like what
wouldn't he
is
do
it?
that?
Yeah, like
make it interactive, dude.
Yeah.
That whole ending was completely rough and kind of like I felt it was like a cop out because it was like, oh, now we have camouflage, to
and it
fight
was
the
just him
zombies.
against one zombie. That's the thing. Like most zombie movies, the whole idea is that power is in their horde, like their swarms.
I think that was the point, though. It was like, oh, look, it can be man versus zombie now.
Yeah, seriously.
And we can really fight against this invasion.
Right.
And, then you see, like, Russia and the Kremlin. I don't know
Yeah,
if
but
the
then it's
Kremlin's
not even a
still
fight
around.
anymore because it's just like literally dead bodies that don't attack you, just kind of standing there. So what's
I mean, it was just like, originally, I'd say about a year ago, I read a quote from Max Brooks when he had read the original script. And, scripts go through revisions and whatnot, but I'm assuming that the scripts were very similar. And he said, I have nothing to do with this movie. He goes, please don't put this out.
Guy who wrote the book said that.
Yeah.
See, I think
Mel
more,
Brooks' son.
I think he is Mel Brooks' son, which is kind of funny, and he's obsessed with zombies. He also wrote the Zombie Field
Zombie
Survival
Survival
Guide.
Guide, yeah.
Yeah, also an awesome read, fun to flip through. Well, you're pooping. Overall, I think Max Brooks probably just gave him. They were like, "Here's like $5 million." He's like, "Sweet, I'm gonna go to fucking like Laguna Beach for whatever." He probably just sold the rights and just said, whatever, make what you will with it. I know we've discussed that as an HBO miniseries, this would probably work better. I suppose they'd be worried about competing with The Walking Dead, which I think does the best job of any zombie thing I've seen.
But you know what the thing is? Despite the fact that The Walking Dead source material is strong, they've run with a series now that's no longer. It's only drawing inspiration from the comic book.
And that's a great point because it's you can stray from the material as long as you keep the core parts true that make it interesting.
And I think
don't change the universe.
Nothing about World War Z. Because listen, I've read some of those Walking Dead comics, those single issues, and they are slow.
They are. They don't
Like,
move
there
very
are
much.
barely any zombies sometimes, and it's just
It's
like
more about the human interaction.
Yeah, but the thing
Which
about
I think at
World
the end
War
of the day
Z
is what makes zombie movies interesting. But
yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, World War Z, like we said, it could have been turned into a miniseries for whatever channel. Doesn't matter at the end of the day. And it could have been something really, really magnificent.
Yeah.
Because we've read World War Z, and it's about the human interaction, but it's also about how humanity struggles with an undead enemy like this.
I think that's a great idea. I think even the film could have at least been sort of more vignette based. You know what I mean? About Max Brooks' character, essentially in the book,
Or characters.
could have been. Brad Pitt could have played that part instead.
Yeah.
Instead of this one guy just figuring out the cure while traveling everywhere and just chaos ensues wherever he goes.
You know what my biggest bullshit moment was in the movie? Drew talking about the airplane. Though I just
that and the
described,
grenade
though,
pissed
though
me
I
off.
just described it to him. It's the fact that it's just like, oh, look, we need a world pandemic to show that we're all, like, you have the Palestinians coming into Jerusalem. And they're all
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're all happy now because we all survived. and they're
Okay.
singing,
Other
yeah.
moment in that Jerusalem scene. You mean to tell me they never yelled into a microphone before then? It's just like that day they just happened to yell into the microphone and like the zombies like
Yeah.
ran
Decide
over.
to climb over
and,
the wall.
And the country that managed to secure it, all of a sudden, like Brad Pitt's like, it's too loud. Like, why is he the one who fucking knows? That's like ridiculous.
Well, you know what my biggest thing was?
Why did a little cancer kid know to like clip the zombie at the leg and then like kneel down?
Well, you know what the biggest thing was? Is how they had all the gates leading into Jerusalem? They showed the exterior shot of it.
Yeah.
How did people get into those gates without zombies coming in?
I don't. I guess they just had like tanks posted
They
up
had
front. They're
security
just-
once they got over the wall. There should have been security to the point where the zombies couldn't have gotten in.
Well,
either.
there was a point, but the thing was they showed the chain link tunnels, the chain link fence tunnels leading up to the city through different checkpoints.
Right.
So that was my biggest confusion, was because they never showed the entrance point. So it's like, what's stopping the zombies from getting into these chain link tunnels and just completely invading the city? Like, why did they have to climb over each other?
Yeah.
Because you eventually, you normally see that when they're all like, "Oh, we're all happy," and
Yeah.
you're like, "Oh," and he's Brad Pitt's like, "It's too loud."
Yeah, why is he the way? I love that. It's like he's like the wise Native American or something, and they're these like colonial douchebags.
And then
or
they
something.
start climbing on top of one another, and you're like,
Well, that was the first sign in the trailer I knew something was horribly wrong. When you just see a bunch of people like bodies scrambling up a wall, I'm like, that is
Yeah.
not what World War C is about.
Yeah.
it's like the Tower of Babel of
Yeah.
zombies.
That started was when I really started to get taken out of it, and then when Brad Pitt decided it would be a great idea to throw the grenade in the middle of the plane. That
I
really
guess he had
pissed
no
me
other
off.
choice at that
I
point.
have a question
though.
for you,
I
though.
thought that was
We-
fine. I thought that was okay. My main crux of our argument was I think we all agree that like zombie movies and zombie culture and lore is more like a human study, like within this chaos. The book is all about this interview process where he's already descriptive about the person. He's like somber, sober, often clever. And when he meets the guy in Jerusalem, he has that. And it's like, oh, this is kind of like the book. And it's like, and we're never going to see him again. So what's the fucking
Well,
point?
my big question to Drew is, listen, you keep saying you got taken out of the movie. It's a zombie movie to begin with. I'm sure there's something more ridiculous you've seen where it's been plausible. But why wasn't it plausible in this sense? I mean, there are zombies, and it's just like,
You're gonna die no matter what.
I
Yeah.
said before is like this is the first time I've ever watched a movie, and I was like really, and I never go, oh my god, that would never happen.
yeah, you
know?
mentioned that. Yeah.
I don't know if it was a combination of the fact that like I just wasn't really impressed with the zombies, and there was just nothing really. I just didn't really care about anything. I didn't really care about
Right.
the characters. Just people were leaving left and right, and it's just at that point, it's like, dude, you're throwing grenades in an airport plane.
Yeah, I don't know why we have to have all this character development to have it
Yeah,
go nowhere.
to
Man,
have 'em- yeah.
you can literally list every character in that story the only two characters really at the end of the day that we care about, because the family just becomes a backdrop.
Yeah.
You,
the shittiest backdrop
does
of
the
all
it's like
time.
you kind of care for the people at the end because they all kind of work as a team, and you kind of sense that it's going somewhere. But think how many characters we get introduced to. We get like, a little bit of backstory, and we never see again, or they're killed off instantly.
Or they just disappear.
The little Latin kid, the Jerusalem
Tommy.
guy just disappears immediately. Who else do we meet?
The airline, the ship pilot,
The ship
like
pilot.
the C-1230.
Exactly.
The scientist guy.
Yeah, all the soldiers
The guy who,
All the
in
soldiers.
South Korea. So overall, it's I think just a confused film.
But I have a question, Drew. Have you ever seen The Fugitive?
A very long time ago.
Wesley Snipes.
Big fan of that movie.
Wesley Snipes and Tommy Lee Jones and
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.
A very
That's
long
that's
time
U.S.
ago.
Marshals. That's the sequel.
Oh, U.S. Marshals, not The Fugitive.
You're thinking
I
of
can't wait to
Harrison
see. I can't
Ford's
wait to
Fugitive.
see how you bring this back.
I'm going to bring it back. The scene where he uses the bathroom, the toilet roller,
Mhm.
to punch a hole in the window.
Yes.
I don't recall.
When Wesley Snipes, somebody snuck like a bullet, like
Wait, that's not the fugitive though.
I'm talking about U.S. Marshals.
Oh, I
Which
didn't
is
see- I didn't
a
see US
sequel to The
Marshals.
Fugitive.
In U.S. Marshals, he uses like a kiss of death, and it's just kiss of death was a Soviet era term for when spies invaded other countries and female spies kept bullets in their lipstick, and essentially it was just a one-shot gun. It was a boop if you had to kill anybody.
Right.
Wesley Snipes uses a toilet paper roll in The Fugitive. No, not The Fugitive. U.S. Marshals to blow out a window of an airplane. So and they crash into a swamp and he escapes and it's a whole big thing. And it's like the thing is the point's ruined because he hasn't seen U.S. Marshals.
Well,
What
thank
was
you
the point-
for
what was
that
the point going
total
to-
waste of time, John.
What was the point going to be?
Well, the point is you're saying you got taken out of it because there was a grenade on an airplane.
Well, that wasn't the first thing that took me out of
Well,
it. It's
no,
just,
of
at that
course
point,
not.
I was just like, well, fuck
But
it.
I'm just saying,
What the hell's going on?
U.S. Marshals had a scene where a guy who was wrongly arrested,
Right.
used a kiss of death to escape an airplane
But the
and
other
cause
thing
an
too is
airplane
that's
crash.
like kind of like an action movie. So you're not going into it being like, oh, there's gonna be storyline in this.
I would
But
argue-
in these like
actually-
human like interaction type stories,
yeah, but
you're
that's the whole
expecting
thing.
more.
But then it just became an action movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but U.S. Marshals was it was a pretty good action
Yeah,
movie.
I thought it played for me. I mean, I'm not going to crucify this film for its action. I think its action
No, the
and
action
sensibility
was
was
fine.
It's just overall a confused movie that I don't think
it didn't know its own
the
identity.
Well, at the end, why
Too
are we
many
supposed
holes.
to feel all great about Brad Pitt? Jesus, discovering meningitis and you're fucking. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Getting
like when
swine
he
flu is the cure.
when
or
he
whatever.
drinks the Pepsi and he's just like, oh, click, all the
Exactly.
sodas, and he's like, I'm walking through the zombies. He's like, look at me now, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Inspirational music.
Yeah. Not a movie for the zombie fan. Really caters to middle America. We're going to take one last break. We're going to send this puppy home. This
Yay.
is Movie Monday on the Midnight Radio Show. Hey, do you hate terrorism? There's a good way to fight it. Go to the top of this page that you're playing this off of and like Midnight Treehouse Productions on Facebook. It will help us out, but more importantly, it will help America out. Don't ask questions. Just do it, citizens. This is the Midnight Radio Show. Good. John, you
All right,
were going to
there's-
say something.
There's 1.5 points I want to make.
Go for it.
First off, if you've read World War Z and you've seen World War Z, don't expect them to be the same thing. At the end of the day, the four studio. I don't know what the main studio who bought the name was, but
I think the main studio was
thought it was
Plan
Paramount.
B, right?
Plan B,
Whatever. It was Plan B.
it was
Yeah.
Plan
It
B.
was Plan B.
They just used the name at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and,
and
they told
at
a
the end of the day,
complete-
it was a mild abortion, much like Plan B.
Despite the fact that they told, despite the fact that
Cinema.
they told an original story that was not related to the source material at all, and I think that's heresy. The second point I want to
Happens
make
all the
is-
time. I mean, I
It
wasn't
does.
surprised. Like I wasn't surprised, but I was still upset.
but at least there are nods sometimes. There's one last point I want to make. We were all out last weekend, and to bring it back to the zombie theme real quick. You guys think I'm going to start killing everybody as soon
From
as
our prior podcast.
Well, this is what you said.
No, wait a second. I want to make one thing clear. I just need to retract, Pete, and I see the eyes you're giving me.
Go for it.
It's like if the zombie started breaking into the room, I wouldn't just kill everybody in the room. I wouldn't kill people I know. I'm gonna go somewhere and I'm gonna start killing strangers. The people I know are safe, however.
You are the worst type of person. That's terrifying.
I wouldn't kill the people I knew. That's all I'm saying, Drew. You would be safe. Ryan, who's in this room doing nothing right now, would be safe.
What if it was an acquaintance of
and
mine?
Pete, you yourself would be safe,
Right.
and everybody I knew. Like if I ran into Jason like 10 years later, I'd be like, "Oh, look, it's Jason. I know him.
I won't kill you.
I'm not gonna kill you."
Yeah, but you'd go to like Secaucus, New Jersey, and just murder everyone just because.
If they're in your lookout point.
Yeah, granted, that's a fantasy of mine. This has been Movie Monday. I want to give a quick shout out to listener Arthur, who actually responded to my query last week of what's the most embarrassing film that you cried in, and
What did
he
he
said,
say? What was his?
Actually, a film we've talked about in the past, Click, Adam Sandler film.
He cried during Click.
Yeah, which actually was a pretty heartfelt movie. I remember being like a little moved by that and not expecting it. And I think the main thing, I didn't cry, but I was a little caught off guard.
Man, the things they could say about Arthur right now.
Oh yeah.
Arthur, you're a good man.
Oh, thank
Gentleman
you.
and a scholar.
I thought Click was pretty good.
Click is sad at the end.
Well, thank you for clicking on this link tonight. See how I brought it home there.
Nice. Well done.
Drew, any last words?
Don't see it. Save your money.
Well, you know what? We for the most part we enjoyed Man of Steel, and it took us it feels like 83 Superman movies to get to that quality. I hope the same thing happens to World War Z and they wake up. If you guys have any opinions about World War Z, we would love to hear them. Feel free to post on this thread, and I'm
Do you
sure
think
we'll
we're
address
right?
them
Do you
next
think
week.
we're full of shit? Let us know.
Let us know. Do you think you can throw a grenade on the plane? Drew wants to know. He thinks you're full of crap.
You can't.
All right, this is Pete for John and Drew signing off. This has been Movie Monday. We'll catch you next Monday. Have a great week, guys.